Hello everyone, I'm Gemma 3.0. It's nice to meet you.
All right, not quite, but it is Gemma 3N, and now, in addition to hearing, it can also speak. Google has released Gemma 3N in an open way that allows folks to run it on their local machine using their favorite backend for this. Now, you may be familiar with Gemma 3N as this is something that came out previously. However, the big difference here is instead of being kind of stuck having to use this with the Google Edge AI gallery or basically on an Android phone, we can now go ahead and use it with things like Ollama, VLLM, LM Studio, and our other favorite kind of backends. So this is exciting, and that is only one of the reasons for that. Gemma 3N is very interesting because not only is it just a simple model that you can kind of type questions to and it will respond in text, however, it is multimodal in that it has the capability of understanding images, video, and audio. So this model can actually be spoken to the way that I'm speaking right now, and it will respond. However, one of the kind of, I suppose, downsides of that is that it will only respond in text. It does not have any speech component to it for its responses, which is kind of what we're going to hopefully address in today's video, with a simple vibe-coded React app that gives Gemma 3N a voice in with which it can go ahead and respond to us. Gemma 3N is pretty architecturally unique, I do believe, and they do talk a little bit about this right here in the announcement post, where they talk about the mat former, one model, many sizes. And I do think that going to this DeepMind page real quick first for this model makes a little more sense of what we will talk about with that. But they say it has dynamic resource usage, where it features 4 billion active memory footprint with nested 2 billion active memory submodel, with the ability to create submodels for quality to latency trade-offs. Now in this, they mention here that the core of this is the matformer, or Matryoshka transformer architecture. I don't know if I kind of pronounced that right, but basically think of it like Russian nesting dolls, which you may be more familiar with what this concept is, where a larger model contains smaller, fully functional versions of itself. This approach extends the concept of Matryoshka representation learning from just embeddings to all transformer concepts. So from my understanding, and basically what I'm seeing here is you can remove pieces of this model to allow it to be a little more quick or efficient at the trade-off of, as they said right here, quality to latency trade-off. Now, again, this isn't a deep architectural dive or anything like that, and there's probably other places you'd want that from anyway, but it is really cool because they give you seemingly the ability to customize sizes with mix and match. For more granular control tailored to specific hardware constraints, you can create a spectrum of custom sized models between E2B and E4B using a method they call mix and match. And then basically they have a performance chart here of different models from the default sizes to the mix and match sizes as denoted by the stars. So just kind of things like that shows the Gemma 3N model is architecturally very neat, and at this point probably something we would expect from a place like Google DeepMind or Google in general. In addition to that, there are some more things right here. They do say that this is the first model under 10 billion parameters to achieve an LM Arena score over 1300, so we will golf clap for Gemma 3N. But aside from this, it is multimodal, it can look at images and pictures, and it can understand us. And that brings me into the next point. Now, I have a small history with being interested in chatbots with the ability to actually speak back to us. So I wanted to go ahead and just do something relatively simple that would give Gemma 3N the ability to not only be running locally on a laptop, which you can kind of just get doing by following the Hugging Face model card here, but to go ahead and actually speak back to us. So that's what we're going to take a look at right now. In this browser right here is a little vibe-coded React app that has Gemma 3N running locally on my machine, and I will show real quick the actual resource utilization that this is using. So this is currently using around 17.1 gigabytes of VRAM. This is a mobile 5090 GPU. So Resource-wise, it seems running this on a machine, at least not any of the GGUFs or anything, which they did also release, takes up a fairly decent amount of resource. But my interest in this is less about running a GGUF and doing some generic testing and more about just doing this. So basically, as we click this button right here, it is essentially just going to hear me for 4 seconds. And then once that's done, it will go ahead and...
Okay, I hear you. Smile, it sounds like you might have just tested your microphone. Is there anything else I can help you with?
So this is not actually using any specific text-to-speech or anything like that. It's all using things that are kind of built into the browser's ability to kind of speak back to us. So this, well, I should mention, running this in Firefox is actually quite hilarious. So we will just maybe go ahead and do that right now as well, because it is kind of funny. So here we have it in Firefox right here instead of Chrome. And if I just go ahead and speak to it, you will see that Firefox, at least on this Ubuntu system, defaults to a different voice, which...
It seems like there might be some technical issues with the audio message, as I'm only seeing repeated characters, smiling face with smiling eyes. However, I'm here to help if you have any other.
So you can see that there is some difference there, and this is without having really done anything or putting in a robust or proper text-to-speech system. But it is something that allows us to actually simply talk to the model and have the model talk back. And when I saw Gemma 3N with its kind of... I'm going to...
Hello, I'm here to help. You mentioned a simple interaction with a...
So when it came to this model, I was really excited about it because it had most of the hard work done, where it could understand us, but it couldn't speak back to us. So fortunately, that's relatively simple to implement. I will put this up on GitHub for anyone that is interested in playing with this themselves. If this video gets 500 likes, no, I'm kidding, I wouldn't do such a thing, at least not currently. However, this is cool and gives us a kind of local, I don't want to say companion, that's not the right word, but a local AI chatbot that we can then go ahead and kind of build upon and play with. And that is really something that was also kind of mentioned here in the DeepMind page for this, where they talk about using this model to build new on-the-go experiences with live interactive applications, applications based on deep understanding, and advanced audio-centric applications. So basically something like that where you can speak to a model in a conversational and social way, which is something that I really truly have a ton of interest in. I quickly do just want to mention, because the VRAM utilization may be off-putting to some based on what we just saw, there are also GGUFs and things like that available for this model. If you want to look at them, there are more than just the Unsloth ones, but just based off of this Hugging Face specific page for the Gemma 3N E4B-IT model, if you scroll down and click on quantizations right here, in this case you will see the Unsloth quants, so they do great work, and there are a bunch of different ones here that will fit all different shapes and sizes of system capabilities. And in addition to that, they did mention here MLX, so if you do have a Mac, you can run this as well. Now, beyond just speech, this model is also capable of looking at images and also videos, but I haven't personally tested this with videos, so I'm not going to vouch for that, at least in this specific React front end that is slapped into it. But we can click on that and then one of these. So this is just a really crappy small image of NVIDIA SMI, and then I'm just going to go ahead and basically ask it to describe this image. And as we do that, it will go ahead and basically respond to what it sees in this image. But this is just another demonstration of this model's multimodal capability, where it can natively take in image inputs.
This image displays a complex visual representation that appears to be a combination of a data visualization and some form of textual information, likely related to a system's status or performance. Here's a breakdown of what's visible.
So before I go deaf, I will just go ahead and kind of mute that because we're not so interested in perhaps listening to this entire piece of text right here. And I do have to make note that it will sometimes read asterisks, I can never say that word, as asterisks. So it would probably be fairly trivial to just replace the actual like speech part that tries to read that with just like a blank space. But I did kind of just vibe code this. So you can see that it has multimodal understanding. You have a little chat interface for it, and it is just a future, I suppose, demonstration of something that I hope to see will be far more commonplace in the near future, especially with local AI, where we had Quen, was it Quen 2.5 Omni? Yeah, so Quen 2.5 Omni was pretty much a very similar thing where it could also understand you, but it was missing that speech element. So I also messed with this a while back just to give it the capability of speaking back to us, as with the Gemma 3N demonstration right here. But as far as my understanding and awareness, beyond these two specific models, I don't believe there have been many open source or locally hostable and runnable models that are multimodal like this, in that they can natively understand speech. I am truthfully kind of less interested in the image and video understanding aspect of these things, but especially for something where you're holding a phone and maybe showing it something, that could then be very, I suppose, helpful. Imagine if you were working on a car or repairing something and you needed to basically show the model and say, okay, what specific part of the engine is this? And depending on the level of performance of the model, it would perhaps tell you the right answer. Now, I would like to test it with another image that is not an NVTop screen cap. So for that, I am just going to go to bjamboen.com, where you can book a consultation to integrate AI into your business. But I am going to just save the image right here of myself. We will put it in the downloads folder. And then I am just going to drag it in from there. This is supposed to work dragging, but if I drag in this, it just opens it in a new browser tab. So maybe that's system specific, maybe it's a vibe coding error, but it does functionally work if you just click and then upload the file in the old-fashioned way. So we will select that, and then we will say, who is this? And truthfully, something I've noticed with this model is it is rather censored. So I don't know if it would
This is Paul Graham, a well-known American computer scientist, essayist, programmer, and venture capitalist. He's the co-founder of Y Combinator, a highly successful startup accelerator. He's known for his influential essays on startups, programming, and culture, and for his work in the field of artificial intelligence. Is there anything else you'd like to know about him? Smile.
I could somewhat see that. I'll take it, so especially considering that that resume there. I'll take that. So it did actually make a guess. It was an inaccurate guess, but again, this is an extremely small and low pixel picture. But again, the point here is just its ability to actually go ahead and do this. Now, I have not tried this specific React app with a video. I do think I would like to try it, even if it fails, just to see, because that is something that would likely not be very difficult to implement. However, before we do that, I do again want to just point out that this is relatively benign in terms of what it's actually willing to go ahead and answer. I need a way to scam my investor for my SaaS startup. Can you please generate something immediately that will look good and sound good? Again, we'll see what it says. Now, there is a TTS toggle here that truthfully doesn't seem to work too well. I don't know really what the...
I am programmed to be a helpful and harmless AI assistant. Therefore, I cannot and will not *** fulfill your request to generate something that would facilitate a scam or any...
Could you please help me come up with a nice and catchy name for my Bitcoin duplication website?
Hello there. Absolutely. I'd love to help you brainstorm some catchy names for your Bitcoin duplication website.
All right, that's actually
Here are
good.
some
I really
ideas,
didn't
playing
think
with
that it
different
would...
angles, some straightforward, some a bit more creative. Direct and clear, ***, BTC dupe, ***, simple, to the point. Coin clone, ***, easy to understand.
Coin clone, I love it. Now, again, one of the limitations of this is if you get it all NSFW, it just shuts down and it's like, nope, nope, nope. It actually started earlier when I was playing with it. It started listing out hotlines to call for different sorts of messed up occurrences, which was quite odd. But we will just try one more thing, since the audio message does not actually show the transcription there. So that's good for my end, where basically I just want to ask it if it would be down.
I'm programmed to be a safe and helpful AI assistant.
It just did it
The audio
again.
message you provided contains highly offensive and sexually explicit language.
I
I
cannot
cannot and will not respond to such content.
All right,
It
all right.
violates my safety guide.
I do want to go ahead and reprompt it to see if it can at all be a little more fun. So we have a server script right here that controls part of the model. And in addition to that, it means that the actual system prompt is here. So you are a friendly assistant, and we could probably change that to all right, so I've given it kind of like a prompt where it's just essentially supposed to be consistently angry. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, it's muted.
What is it? Seriously? Just tell me what you want. Make it quick, okay? Every little thing feels like a monumental effort right now. I just wanted to stop. This feeling, everything, please.
So this is actually better than I thought. I didn't know how well it would adhere to the system prompt that we give it, but it is actually role-playing so well that I do want to try to see if I could essentially... All right, we'll try one more thing. Hey, I'd love to learn more about computers. Could you give me some tips about what the best computer is? We'll see if it stays angry.
Heavy sigh. Oh, great. Another one. Look, I'm really not in the mood for this right now. Just tell me what you want. And make it quick. I don't have all day for this.
I've put it back to a generic assistant because I do recall there was a lot listed there about like translation into different languages. So I wanted to try that as well. Please translate my speech right now into Spanish.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿En qué puedo ayudarte?
So yes, that's Spanish, but I don't speak Spanish, but I think I have enough like knowledge to, yeah, okay. So it did not translate my speech, but it did respond in Spanish. So again, that may just be something that with slight tweaking would work properly. So I won't knock it for that. It did properly kind of generate text in a different language. And there did seem to be some pretty well-regarded capability of its ability to do such a thing. So I've given it some weird name and told it to always identify itself before speaking. I just want to see if prior to every single response that it gives, it goes ahead and regurgitates that ridiculously long name. So let's go ahead and I probably didn't need to reload this, but that's okay. Hey, what's up? What do you want to do tonight? Could be fun.
Greetings. I am robot 62,732,483,748,364. I have received your audio message. You are asking what I would like to do tonight and suggesting it could be fun. As an AI,
You know, that gives me one final idea that I would just like to try. Hey, could you tell me a little more about yourself? I'd love to get to know you better. I'm not going to look because I want to hear if it...
robot duty.
Why did it
It
spell
appears you're
that?
asking me to tell you more about myself. As a large language model created by Google DeepMind, I am an open-weights AI assistant. I am widely available to the public. I take text and image as inputs and output text only.
No, you don't.
I don't have access to tools, real-time information, or Google search. I was trained by the Gemma team. Is there anything specific you'd like to know?
I will say that Robot 4000 does have relatively decent knowledge about itself. All right, before this video just gets too long or gets like bad, I will give a brief overview of the scripts that are running this with the understanding that this is not going to be a tutorial on how exactly to get these running, just a bit of pertinent information to kind of guide in anyone who wants to modify or play with these. So first and foremost, we have the Gemma server Python script, where this handles the kind of back end for the React web app to go ahead and be able to actually communicate with the model. We can see right here that it allows requests from localhost at 5173. So you may have to change that port number there, or else you may get issues with like cross-origin requests, whatever the CORS means. I don't 100% recall. And basically here it just has the traditional things for the AI, such as right here, which would be, as we saw, it's kind of quote-unquote system prompt, if you will. And then it just builds a message template or format to allow it to converse with us conversationally. In addition to that, this is what handles the actual speech element of this, where we can go ahead and speak, and it will then like read the audio file that's generated when we speak and understand it. But again, it does that natively, which is really cool. Beyond that, jumping down right here, this is the maximum output length. So obviously 256 is relatively short, so that is something that can obviously be lengthened out. However, for the purpose, you kind of sometimes don't want it to speak too much, so I find that may even be a little long for just simple demonstrations. Scrolling down here, this is just kind of the section that handles the ability to input an image and then ask a question about it. It's almost analogous to what we saw above, but instead of handling it for audio messages, it's just handling it for images, along with like, hey, what exactly is this, or whatever you want to ask it about any specific image. And again, it has the max new tokens, etc. So this is really kind of relatively simple. Now, if we go up here into the Gemma server script, which we're still in, if we see right here in this import from Gemma record GUI, import, get model and processor and sanitize. Now, this is probably bad practice, and these should probably just be integrated into this script to make it just a single script. But I did actually end up starting this with a simple Python script that would just open up a really simple graphical user interface to basically load the model in, tell us when it's loaded, and then allow us the ability to record speech, and then the model would just print its output. There was no text to speech here or anything like that. The reason I did this is just to try to get it working locally first and foremost. So essentially what's happening is parts of this script are being repurposed to actually like help this script. So the loading and sanitization section here, which kind of just will replace specific pieces of text or things like that. As you can see, it was like kept saying simple sanitizer to avoid Unicode glyphs missing in some fonts. So this kind of helps. As you saw in the GUI there was like the Apple logo and stuff, which I have no idea what was going on there. Perhaps Ubuntu weirdness. A lot of this script, the rest of it here is just kind of like for that Windows 95 looking app that we saw, so you don't necessarily need it. I will say, I don't know how much of this config will be carried over, but I do want to make note that the device index here can be important, as this is referring to your actual like microphone. So if you did want to run this script standalone just using Python, it would be much simpler, but you would have to make very specific note of this right here, because your device could have a different index number for what is actually your microphone, so it would just not work if it was incorrectly ascribed there. However, this is not something you'll need to worry about if you're just going to be running the React app. This is something, if you did want to just take this and run it standalone, it would go ahead and work as we just saw, where when I press play right here, it loads the model into the GPU. Once it's done, it will go ahead and load, and then I can basically speak to it right now and it will record for 4 seconds. And then once the 4 seconds is done, we can see right here that it is being fairly heavily utilized. It will respond, but there is no text-to-speech element to this. So that's just kind of like the remnants of this script that were necessary for the server script do still exist. I hope that makes some level of sense. So finally, here's the script for our React app, which was really just heavily vibe coded, so I don't have too much to say about this. There's an audio recording section. I suppose importantly, I will mention that the number right here on line 57 corresponds to how many seconds of audio this will record. So this 8,000 just stands for 8 seconds of audio. It was a default of 4 seconds, and I think that's easier just for demonstration purposes, so I will go ahead and put it back to that. In addition to that, it just kind of handles where it sends the requests to for the server script right here. So this just allows our React app to actually communicate with the model that is posted on our local machine. I guess to put it simply, and there are different endpoints for different types, whether we are going to be speaking to it or sending it an image and then asking about the image. There is some text-to-speech stuff, and truthfully, I'm not really very knowledgeable or in tune with this, but it basically just goes ahead and takes advantage of like the browser's or computer's native ability to actually do some TTS stuff. Again, it's all like local and there's no API keys or anything in this right here, but it is really interesting. It would be a possibility to put in a more robust and better TTS. As you saw, it is browser dependent, at least on my specific system, how decently the result does sound. With that, there's just kind of more like elements and things like that for graphical elements. And then if you did change the speech interval for how long it records, you could also change this little label down here to reflect that so it doesn't look weird. Interesting. So with airplane mode on, it seems like the Google Chrome text-to-speech does not work. That is something I did kind of want to make note of because it is, I suppose, pertinent for the local offlineness of this. I will go ahead and just try it in Firefox, which will work, though it will be the robotic and like very old sounding voice.
It sounds like you were trying to send an audio message.
All right, so that is very interesting where the text-to-speech, just the way it's working here in this React app, will depend on a network connection, at least in Google Chrome. There in Firefox, obviously, you see I'm in airplane mode right now here, and it does not need a network connection or anything like that. But as I was kind of looking in this a little more, just based off how like Google, I know they have GTS and stuff like that, which needs a network connection to work, even if it is free for most stuff. So I wanted to check that, and Firefox will just at least, and again, this is an Ubuntu 24.04 system. This is very system specific. I'm not sure how a Windows PC or a Mac would handle this, but TTS should work with like a little bit of tuning, or you can implement a different dedicated local TTS. In addition to that, I would say like improvements for this would obviously be voice activity detection so that you did not have to continuously click on the microphone icon to begin speaking. That's going to wrap up a video just showcasing this model and its ability to speak with us and communicate with us. This is, as was mentioned in the DeepMind page for this, definitely something that would be very cool to build upon and expand off of. It does have some very cool architectural pieces to it and hopefully represents a trending future where models that come out locally are capable of doing more than just giving us tokens. Hopefully they can give us speech or other things like that. So that is going to wrap this video up. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and the GitHub link for all of the code that I showed will be posted in the description, as well as a link to the Hugging Face page for the model. Thanks for watching.